meeting so that we can share it with anybody who wasn't able to make it this afternoon. I'm going to also go ahead and put a link to our handout for the session in the chat as well. So if you want to go ahead and grab that link and open up that handout, that'll be useful for you to follow along as well. So today's A+ talk visual arts engagement and or integration into your classrooms. And so we've got some great folks, and a lot of you are already doing that sort of thing. So let's just see who's in the room and do a little quick warm up. So if you would, just grab a piece of paper and grab something to write with and draw 6 circles on your paper. Anywhere you want to, any size you want to, 6 circles. Ready? Go. All right. Your challenge is going to be to now incorporate all of the circles, the 6 circles that you just drew on your piece of paper, into a drawing of some sort. Each circle could be its own little independent drawing, or it can all be part of a whole. And we're going to give you only 2 minutes to try to make something of the circles that you drew on your piece of paper. Any questions? On your mark, get set, draw. All right, about half of your time is up. See what you can make of the 6 circles that you drew on your paper. Ten seconds left. And that is time. If you don't already, and you wouldn't mind, I'd love for you to turn your camera on and hold your drawings up and for us to just share and look around a little bit. I will remind everyone, especially since we're in the visual arts today, if you want to pin any one of the squares so you can get a little bit better look at what people are holding up, just hover over their square and click the little triple dot menu. And if you click pin, it makes it larger just on your screen for everybody. So I see we've got some individual circles, maybe some planets or some snowflakes. I see we've got some connected circles, maybe some friends. I see some sort of modern art and abstract art. I see some body parts. Very good, very good. Give yourself a little pat on the back. You're fabulous artists. So something just this quick can be a great energizer, can be a great way for you to take a little bit of a brain break. And you can also put a theme on this sort of little warm up or exercise as well. You might have, say, something that's living, or maybe you say draw something that is special to you in some way. Lots of different ways that you can put a little twist on something as simple as drawing a few circles. I see we still have some folks joining us, so welcome, welcome. Again, I'll remind you to go ahead and put your name, your school, and your role into the chat. And there is also the link to the handout right there. So thank you for engaging your visual arts brain. Let's do a little bit of a check-in. Everybody, hold up your fingers and put up your fingers. And put a finger down if you've ever done one of the following in your classroom. Put a finger down if you've ever used a visual teaching aid. Put a finger down if you've ever told a story with a picture book. Put a finger down if you've ever taught what symbols or colors might mean, like stop or go or wait. Put a finger down if you've ever used or made maps. Put a finger down if you've ever drawn or labeled a diagram. Put a finger down if you've ever discussed a piece of visual art, or if you've ever learned about the biography of an artist. Put a finger down if you've ever learned about cultural art forms like pottery or weaving or architecture. That's visual art too. Put a finger down if you've ever had your class arrange objects or furniture or themselves in according to things like height or color of clothing, or in numbers, or in lines or circles. That's using some art smarts. And put a finger down if you've ever had students use photographs or clip art or other visual media in their projects or presentations. I see a lot of folks that have fingers down, maybe a couple fingers up. You have used visual arts in your classroom already if you put any of those fingers down. So today what we hope to do is present a couple of practices that you can use in your classroom tomorrow to help to engage senses and also increase visual literacy. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague September, who's going to present our first practice, puppetry.
Hey everyone, I'm so glad that we got started with drawing as one of the very first things that we did. For me, visual arts and drawing, that's my happy place. Anytime that I can have an opportunity to draw out an idea or to use drawing in thinking about things or recording things, it's something that I love to do. So we're going to do tiny bit of drawing, but together we're going to work on making some puppets. Just if you know, do you know how to use your reaction buttons here in Zoom? Can you guys give me a reaction or a thumbs up? Have you ever used a puppet in your classroom? I see some thumbs going up across the screens. Okay. Oh, sweet, sweet. All right. So we've got some folks that have used puppets already. And we're going to make today a couple of really, really simple puppets that you can do in your classroom and with really, really simple materials. So what we need are a couple of sheets of paper, if you've got that. And then if you've got also, we're going to work with a toilet tube roll, if you've got one of those. So first, what I want you to think about is when we go to do a puppet, of course, we're going to need this idea of how this character is going to come to life. And we're going to want to think about what kind of expression is going to help that character come to life. So I'm going to ask you to begin by sketching on one of your pieces of paper 2 circles, 2 dots, and 2 dashes, right? When we make our puppets, we are going to think of getting rid of googly eyes. Kids love them because they're so fun, but how many things can googly eyes be other than happy googly eyes, right? So you want to begin to think about, at the very least, what kind of expression is going to come across with your puppets by having some eyes that we can interact with. So with something as simple as 2 circles, 2 dots, and 2 dashes, you're going to come up with some emotions that you could have. And I'm going to suggest that maybe you think about, how are you feeling right now? About 4:45 in the afternoon, end of the workday, nearing the end of the work week, right? I'm going to grab my piece of paper here and I'm going to draw 2 circles. I'm going to draw 2 dots in it and 2 dashes. Let me find my camera here. Thank you. Right? 2 circles, 2 dots, 2 dashes. So where are those circles going to be? Are they close together? Are they far apart? Maybe those dashes are coming together. Right? Oh, the infinite world of Zoom cameras. Did I get it right yet? I'll take my blur off. There we go. Okay. So what are these eyes feeling like? Or these eyes? Maybe your dashes are even eyelids instead of eyebrows. So 2 dots, 2 circles, and 2 dashes. And give me a set of eyes that let me know how you're feeling right now. About 4:45 on a Thursday afternoon. And I'm going to remove my spotlight and take a look and see, and you can share. Okay, I'm seeing some sideways eyes there. I'm seeing some bright eyes. All right, sweet. Okay. Some exuberant eyes there with Samantha. Thank you. Some thinking eyes with Amanda. Maybe tired, a little tired with Mandy. Right. Oh, I've got a whole expression here with Ellen. Thank you. All right. Some curious eyes with Kat. Okay. A little sleepy eyes with Medina, right? Okay. So it can be that simple, right? 2 circles, 2 dots, 2 dashes. But toss out those googly eyes. Resist the urge to add googly eyes to this puppet or any puppet in the future. And our first puppet we're going to just make with a sheet of paper. So grab that sheet of paper that you have. And all you have to do is do a little bit of folding. So first we're going to take that sheet of paper, we're going to fold it in half. And it doesn't have to be a crisp fold, but you just want to be able to find the center. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold this side into the center here and this side into the center here. So I'm going to do that on my table so it's nice and tidy. And then I'll hold it up so you know what it looks like. So you're going to have something that looks like this. Okay. And then we're going to take that shape, fold it over one more time. So now you have a long rectangle. And this you can give a good crease to. All right. Take your long rectangle, and now we're going to fold this in half. Like that. Okay. And then we're going to fold these back. So you're going to fold one back this way and one back that way. I hope that's making sense on my Zoom screen. And what you should find with your folded paper, now you have a place at that back end where you can slip a finger into the top and a finger into the bottom. And you have your very simple finger puppet that you can use, right? So, how are we going to get a feeling for this puppet and the character that it is going to become? Right? This is where you can draw right onto that puppet, or if you want, you can take a piece of scrap paper and you can draw those eyes and add them to it so that they pop up. But again, don't use those googly eyes. Make something that's sure that it's something that you create to give a feeling for who that character is. And there's so many things that you can think about, not only those eyes, but where are they located? So the closer they are to the front of that mouth, the more that changes that puppet, or even further away. All of those things are going to change the way that puppet feels and interacts as a character. All right, so I'm going to stick my eyes on here. I use my Sharpie to make it a little bit darker. Okay, does everyone have at least a couple pieces of paper with you? Right. So think about this first puppet that you've made, and maybe it's this puppet that's you on a Thursday afternoon, just about at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and how this puppet feels. Make a partner for this puppet. What does this puppet need as a friend? Does this puppet need someone who is going to cheer him up? Help him look forward to the rest of the afternoon? Is this puppet going to help this puppet get through its homework? What set of eyes and what kind of puppet partner can you make that goes along with the one that you just created? Take a moment and make a partner for your puppet with that second sheet of paper. A puppet who can feed the other one cookies. I love it. I'm seeing some ideas in the chat. And I'm seeing some different smiles. And whichever puppet can also make dinner at my house, I'd be grateful. Not my skill set. And do the dishes, yes, please. While we're thinking about puppets and what they can do, is there a story you are working on right now in your classroom where a set of puppets might be useful? Okay. Is there something that you're working on in history right now where a simple puppet could help that story and history come to life? Okay, I see someone doing memoirs, right? Memoirs of a goldfish, excellent. And absolutely character traits, yes, for sure. Ah, the Greensboro 4. So think about the range of emotions that you have to go to tell the story of the Greensboro 4. And make a new set of eyes here. Okay. And what are some of the other things that you think can be helpful if a child is working with, a student is working with puppets and learning through puppets? What are some things that come to mind? You can drop that in the chat as well, as to ways that puppets can be useful for learning, right? So I'm seeing lots of great ideas again about character traits in the chat. Absolutely, sharing emotions. Yes, lots of social emotional connections. Communication, disorder, kiddos, absolutely. Kids can empathize with a puppet. Ah, I'm seeing some color on the screen, right? That can make such a difference. Mouth shape of vowels right now in course. Wonderful. So that can help them work on that mouth shape in course, not closing down. we know that just like you're saying, puppets can help with all kinds of social and emotional connections for kids. It holds kids' attention in ways that other tools might not, while you're just learning on the board. Gestures that they get to make while they are discussing and presenting things are something that puppets also introduce to kids while they're learning. Those puppets can foster diversity in the classroom. So Terry uses puppet centers and as reading buddies, absolutely. We know that puppets are looked upon more like peers. So your puppet, instead of being the teacher who knows it all, like all adults know it all, if a kid is going to be explaining something to a puppet, they explain it in a different way because it's like they're talking to a peer. Okay. So our first set of puppets can be as simple as that. Piece of paper. Obviously, you can add eyes, you can add hair, you can add other things. You can do lots of things inside to the mouth to add more dimension to these characters. But very simple piece of paper to make a puppet for you. Right? I'm looking at another one there. Rue, thank you, on screen. Okay. The puppet might be able to share students' writing. Absolutely. Takes the focus off of them. Oh no, someone's hungry and exhausted. I'm imagining what those eyes look like. And I'm glad we're popping in some other things because it's not just SEL, not just ELA, numbers for their puppets. And they can walk around the room, see who chomps the others. There's some addition that can happen with puppets, right? Okay. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that idea of math and proportions also as we're looking at the next tool that we're going to use. We're going to use our paper towel tube or toilet tube. And we're going to take a few minutes to make a puppet with one of these, or if you want, you can use two. But we're going to have one that can be a sad puppet, a tragic puppet, and a comic puppet, a happy puppet. So same tube, it can be two feelings, or you can make two different ones. So we'll do it really quick on a paper towel tube or a toilet tube. And I think you got a handout if you need, but we're just going to start with your basic toilet roll. I don't know about you, I save way too many of these. There we go. Thank you, Tom. So it's great to think about when and how you can use them, right? And what we're going to do is just a couple of simple cuts. And I'm going to draw on the tube where I'm going to make that first cut. Oh, out with the recycling. Well, you'll have this for the next time because there's, again, no shortage of these. We're going to work on first that kind of sad mouth, the tragic mouth. And what we're just going to do is kind of near the bottom of that tube, you can draw a line, just kind of a straight line. You want it to be maybe at least as far up as your thumbnail, because you don't want it too close to the bottom. And it doesn't need to be too long, maybe about as long as like from your knuckle to the end of your thumb. So not too long and not too close to the bottom. And then you can pinch that slightly enough just so that you can cut it. And you're just going to kind of cut that straight line. And before we bend it and wiggle it, I'm going to go ahead and add a set of eyes right above that line. So remember, 2 circles, 2 dots, 2 dashes. And to me, this would be more my tragedy side of my puppet. So, and maybe it's just a thoughtful side. Maybe it's just a serious side. But those size of those circles, how far apart they are, where those dashes are. So there's my little face, there's my cut. And we want to just make this bottom part of the cardboard move a little bit. So we're going to take and pinch it together, just like that. And then you're going to fold it back just a little. Because what you're just trying to do is just get it to wiggle a little. You can fold it a little one way and a little bit the other way. But then when you hold on to it, you can make it move. You've got a little mouth. And this side of your puppet can be a little more serious, a little more thoughtful. So that mouth shape, that eye shape for one side. And I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over onto the other side and make a complement. I like thinking about that idea of what kind of, like we've been talking a little bit about character traits and emotions, what's going to help complement one emotion. So on the other side, we started out with a straight line. On this side, we're going to go kind of near the top, and we're going to start with a line that's a little bit curved. So you're kind of starting with a smile. Okay. And before I cut, I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 circles, 2 dots, 2 dashes, so I get some eyes above this for an expression. I'm going to make these nice and far apart, because that feels happy to me. So far it's like this. Not sure if my shadows are okay. And then same thing. So I'm just going to bend this slightly, not to crease it completely, but just enough so that I can cut along that curve. And for this one, you might want to start a cut and then stick your scissors in there and cut it the rest of the way. So I just cut that line right there. And then just like we did a moment ago, we're going to pinch this and we're going to bend that cardboard a little bit, just so that it moves a little. I'm going to twist it a little to the left, a little to the right. And once I get it to bend and wiggle a little bit, I can get it to stand up. The shadow's okay here. Can you see? Okay. And so I've got one side, joy, optimism. Thank you, Amber. I see that. We've got our comedy, and on the other side, little tragedy, little sadness. Okay. So really, really simple materials that you can work with. You can add on to this in so many ways. Tom, thank you for embellishing your eyes even more. All right, sweet. And also for where those eyes are located. Again, really important for developing what that story of the puppet and what that character of the puppet could be. So not only do I save my toilet rolls, my paper towel tubes, I don't know about you, but after Christmas, there's also been a wrapping paper tube or two lying around. So you could have quarter puppet, half, 3/4, right? So the puppet size becomes something you could use in math. What else could you do with your puppets? We've got shape with the geometry, the tube itself. I'm going to open up and see what's in the chat. Compare, contrast, absolutely. And we can definitely be thinking about reduce, reuse, recycle, 3D shapes, teaching empathy, retelling a story and adding some details for sure. You've got someone working on character development next week, thinking about using some puppets for that. Perspectives, absolutely. And puppets can be write script dialogue with your puppets. Maybe your puppets are even helping develop ideas, arguments, positive and negative numbers. Absolutely, right? We've got two sides of that same numeral. And these are just some puppets that we can use with paper and cardboard. If you use something like shadow puppets, it's a great way to think about light as a tool in science. Yes, and showing students to move from one emotional state to another. All right. If you get other ideas that come to mind for how you might be using a puppet coming up this week or this quarter, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Now I'm going to set my puppets down to the side and I'm going to hand it back off to Tom so he can talk with you a little bit more about visual arts and some things that you can do.
Thanks, September. I love how approachable these puppets are. It doesn't take a lot of crazy supplies to build them, and you get the satisfaction of them being done so that you can use them pretty quickly. But at the same time, for our younger students, you're also practicing things like your fine motor skills and your hand-eye coordination. And for your older students, you can really practice embellishment and figuring out you know, how this puppet represents what you want it to represent with even more features. So it's really cool. Really quick here, the end of our hour, I wanted to share some ideas about how you can use visual art every day. And one of the ways that you can do that is in using visual art while you are giving directions, while you're lecturing, and while your students are taking notes. So one of the things that we know is that research shows us that drawing, doodling, making sketches, making diagrams helps students to focus. It's kind of like, you know, what everybody was joking about during the pandemic about keeping the mouse wiggling so that you know that the computer is still active. When our students and when we continue to doodle or draw, it helps to keep our mind active. It helps to keep the computer on. It also helps us to attach something to memory, to help to create memories better, have better recall of information, helps us concentrate more. And it also helps blood flow to the frontal cortex part of our brains, which are the parts of the brains that we really want our students to be using in terms of regulating their emotions, regulating their decisions, executive function. So doodling is not just a pleasant waste of time and paper. It actually helps us and our students to do a lot of the things that we really want them to do in order to be successful when it comes to school. We know that in order to retain information and recall information, we need to make connections with information. In order to be able to do that, we have to have two modalities engaged: visual and auditory, auditory and reading and writing and kinesthetic, or we have to have one modality and an emotion attached to it. So I'm going to make something visual, but I also have a personal connection. What happens with drawing is that you're automatically making a personal connection because you are the artist. It also helps because a lot of times you're processing auditory information into a drawing. So it is actually taking one form of information and converting it to another form of information. And we know that when you translate things, you really have to know them really well. So it engages auditory, kinesthetic, and reading and writing. So the contribution of the doodle is that it helps us with all of these different modalities. And so what I want to invite you to do is to think about ways that you can incorporate doodling into your everyday classroom. And you will find different topics that represent this listed on the internet. So if you search visual note taking, you can find more information. If you search something called sketchnoting, you can also find more information. As I was talking with September earlier, if an author or an artist can slap a trademark on it, they're going to do it and make some money off of it. But this is art. This is something that is as old as history. So don't pay for it if you don't have to, folks. Go out there and steal just like I did. So when we're doodling, when we're taking notes and we're incorporating visual art into our notes, we're not trying to capture every single word. And we're not trying to only use pictures because you can't. So what you're trying to do is help to add something to note-taking or add something on the board while you are listing or lecturing or explaining something that will help the students and you to remember the big ideas later. So just think about what really strikes you, what seems significant to you. Teachers, if you are teaching how to take notes, sometimes high school teachers, you're still teaching how to take notes. Draw a picture of the big thing, make it nice and big, and then draw some of the supporting details around it or write out some of the supporting details around it. That will help your students to be able to visualize that information in a different way. You can see a couple of examples that are shown here. And as we already know, doodles help students be able to navigate, especially your visual kinesthetic. Like I'm visual kinesthetic. I can't tell you sometimes what the information is, but I can tell you it's at the bottom of the left-hand page underneath the picture of the thing. And so it helps me to sort of file and store information and be able to get back to it a lot quicker. Plus, it's just fun. So if you drew a lot when you were a young person, or if you continue to draw, sometimes I still have to draw in order to understand things like larger processes and procedures, the way sometimes things are networked or hierarchies. I draw all the time. In fact, I actually drew my notes for this lecture out so that I could have them in front of me. So it would help me, and I wouldn't be reading off of a piece of paper. So in the time that we have left, what I would like to do is to have you try making a combination of written notes and sketches for a little reading that I have on the metabolism of a sloth. So I'll do a little read aloud from this science article. This is taken from Science News, and it's written at about a 9th grade level, I think. Let me double check that. Nope, 7th grade level. So this is a great way for you to get your students to remember. And also, you know, when you're doing read alouds, it also is a way for other students to engage their brains and to take responsibility information, even if they're not the ones that are reading out loud. So here we go. Take a piece of paper, and you might want to grab a couple different colors of marker, pencil, or pen, and take some visual notes. So the headline of this article is that this mammal has the world's slowest metabolism. There are degrees of slothfulness, even when it comes to sloths. And three-toed sloths may be the most slothful of all, new data show. Researchers studied 2 species of sloth in Costa Rica. They measured the rate at which these animals' bodies operate, converting food to fuel and growth. And this metabolic rate in one species of three-toed sloth was the lowest ever recorded, not just for a sloth, but for any mammal. 6 species make up the category of animals that most people call sloths. All fall into one of 2 families, either the 2-toed or the 3-toed sloths. 3-toed sloths tend to have smaller ranges and eat a more restricted diet than their 2-toed cousins. That means they prefer to dine on fewer species of trees, and they'll usually eat only from a few individual trees. Studies had shown that 3-toed sloths have very slow metabolic rate. But how slow? To find out, Jonathan Pauly, an ecologist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and his colleagues captured 10 brown-throated sloths. They are a 3-toed species. The scientists also collected 12 Hoffman sloths, which are a 2-toed type. All came from a study site in northern Costa Rica. Many elements come in more than one form or isotope. The researchers injected the sloths with water labeled with specific isotopes of oxygen and hydrogen, then released the animals back to the wild. After 7 to 10 days, the scientists again captured the sloths and sampled their blood. By seeing how much of the isotope labels remained, they could calculate the sloth's metabolic rate. This is the energy that an organism uses throughout the day. The field metabolic rate for the 3-toed sloths was 31% lower than that for 2-toed sloths. It was also lower than that found in any mammal that was not hibernating. The researchers reported this in May 25th in the American Naturalist. There seems to be a kind of cool combination of behavior and physiological characteristics that lead to these tremendous cost savings for 3-toed sloths, Pauly says. By physiological traits, he means those relating to the animals' bodies. 3-toed sloths spend a lot of time in the forest canopy eating and sleeping. They don't move much. Their 2-toed cousins are much more mobile. They're moving around a lot more. But there's more to that, Pauly observes. 3-toed sloths have the capacity to fluctuate their body temperature. People need to keep their body temperature within a few degrees of normal to stay healthy, but not sloths. They can let theirs rise and fall with the outdoor temperature, a bit like how a lizard or a snake might regulate its body temperature. Those are big cost savings to let your body change with your surroundings. Arboreal folivores are vertebrates that live in trees and eat only leaves. This new data may explain why there aren't more types of sloths and other arboreal folivars. Polly and his colleagues argue that leaf and eaters tend to be big. The elephant and giraffe are good examples. They need a body big enough to accommodate a large digestive system that can process all of the leaf matter they need to survive. But a leaf eater that lives in a tree can't be too big. It needs a lot of special adaptations for arboreal life. Indeed, this may be why arboreal folivory is one of the world's rarest lifestyles, says Polly. It's a really tough living. So that reading was pretty dense and packed within some good information. Also explains maybe how people behave when they start switching over to a more plant-based lifestyle. And just for fun, here are some pictures of the sloths. They're super cute or menacing, depending on how you look at them. So let's take a look at what you were able to capture in terms of information from the article, in terms of drawing or doodling. If you have a fact that you were able to capture, you can either say it out loud or you can type it into the chat. And let's see how much information we were able to capture from using some visual note-taking. What's one thing you learned today about sloths? They're pseudo cold-blooded, yeah. They don't have to keep warm like we do. They would be much more comfortable this winter with the changing weather from day to day. Different metabolism rates. Yeah, we learned there's differences between types of sloths. Some of them are more mobile than others. Yeah, I don't know that I knew that there was like a active sloth and a passive sloth. Different metabolism rates, different places within the environment that they live. Well, there will not be questions about sloths on the reflection form. I'm not going to do that to you. But I bet if we did put a question about sloths on the reflection form, you could probably remember 2 or 3 facts about a sloth just from the notes that you were able to take today. And I'm sure that it was more enjoyable than copying down a bulleted list of facts or copying words off of a slide. For you and for me as a presenter. So I hope that you will consider ways of adding doodling into the work that you're doing in your classrooms. On the handout, there is a link to the slideshow, and there are a few more tips about how you can incorporate visual art into the work that you're doing. Consider adding a place on your handout, just like we did, for doodling to take place. Think about doodling together as a group. Don't be afraid to share your doodles. Doodles are for you. They're not for anybody else. So if you want to show somebody else your doodles, they may understand them, they may not. But if you're sharing your doodles with your students, it really helps them to not be intimidated. And if you're incorporating doodling like we did just when we first started with our circle doodles, or sketching our eyeballs, it really lowers that feeling of high stakes or risk for folks because they become more used to doodling on a regular basis. And don't forget to keep your doodling supplies and ideas handy so you can doodle more on a regular basis. There's more ideas on how to doodle in the slides and on the handout. So you're welcome to take a look at that. And again, just Google visual note-taking, doodle notes, sketch notes. You can find out more on the interwebs as well. As we close up today, I would love to take a screenshot for anybody who wants to put their camera on and have you hold up either your doodles or your puppets. So let's see what we have to choose from. And if you would just hold up whatever it is that you would like to share, and I'll take a really quick screenshot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it up and got it. And as we wrap up today, if you've not already, please make sure to put your name, school, and grade and discipline into the chat box so that you get credit for your attendance, and we can send you that link to the reflection form. We do have one more A+ talk, and that is going to be coming up. We have 2. The next one is February 22nd from 4:30 to 5:30. Creative writing across the curriculum. And we have all sorts of great A+ resources available to you as well, including our podcast, our A+ Live Binder, and some great units on visual arts, multiple learning pathways, and other topics on A+ University. So I'm popping those links into the chat as well. I want to thank you for sharing your time this afternoon with us. I want to thank September for presenting these great puppets. Love those. And we hope that we will see you again very, very soon. If you'd like to unmute and say farewell, you are welcome to. And otherwise, we will catch you next month at our next A+ talk. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon / evening.
Thank you.
You are
Thanks,
very welcome.
everyone.